It's not the strongest or most intelligent of the remaining species, but it's the most responsive to change. A man who dares to waste an hour has not found the value of life. Love and compassion for all living beings is the greatest virtue of man. I am not fit to blindly follow other people's directions. Throughout the long history of mankind and animal species, those who have learned to cooperate and improve more effectively have prevailed. We stopped looking for monsters under our beds when we realized they were inside us. Intelligence is based on how efficient a species is at doing the things it needs to survive. Brightness is the most unique and the most human of all manifestations. A scientific man must have no passions, no affections, no mere heart of stone. The highest stage of moral culture is the recognition that we must control our thoughts. The removal of an error is a better service than establishing a new fact or facts, and perhaps even better. It is an accursed evil for any man to be as engrossed in any subject as in mine. An American monkey, after drinking brandy, will never touch it again, and is therefore wiser than most men. We cannot solve the mystery of the beginning of all things. I must be content to remain an agnostic. A moral being is one who is capable of reflecting on his past actions and their motives, approving some and disapproving of others. Ignorance often makes us more confident than knowledge. If I had my life to live again, I would make it a rule to read some poetry and listen to music at least once a week. The power of persistent misrepresentation is great. The essence of instinct is to follow its cause independently. The highest stage of moral culture to which we can come is when we recognize that we must control our thoughts. Man tends to increase at a rate greater than his means of subsistence. I was a machine for observing facts and drawing conclusions. Man, in his pride, thinks himself great, worthy of God's intervention. A republic cannot succeed until it contains a certain body of men imbued with the principles of justice and honor. The survival of the fittest implies the loss of the less fit. False facts are very damaging to the progress of science because they often last so long. The loss of these tastes, a regrettable loss, is gradually taking place. The more one thinks, the more one feels the despairing immensity of man's ignorance. Nothing is easier than accepting in words the truth of the universal struggle for life, or more difficult than keeping this conclusion constantly in mind. At least it was so for me. It is not a valid objection that science has not yet shed light on the very high problem of the essence or origin of life. I have constantly endeavored to keep my mind at liberty to abandon any supposition, however willing, as soon as facts to the contrary were shown. It's hard to believe the terrible but silent war lurking just below nature's calm facade. A man's friendship is one of the best measures of his worth. I called this the principle that every slight variation, if beneficial, is preserved by the term natural selection. The term natural selection is a bad one in some respects, as it seems to imply conscious selection. One general law which leads to the progress of all organic beings, namely multiplication, change, let the strongest live and the weakest die. Man possesses all his noble qualities. His godlike intelligence penetrated into the movements and constitution of the sun by the compassion he feels for the inferior, a kindness which extends not only to other men, but also to the humble creature. System. Man, still in his bodily frame, his inferior origin bears the indelible seal of. The more we know about the fixed laws of nature, the more incredible are the miracles. A struggle for existence necessarily follows at the high rate at which all organic organisms tend to increase. A man's friendship is one of the best measures of his worth. It is not the strongest or the smartest who come forward, but those who can best manage change.